Many of us were taught, whether it was implicitly or explicitly, that love comes after we do something right, after we're really good or we're really helpful or we get really good grades or we're really agreeable. Or perhaps it's even the reinforcement like, don't be too much, don't take up too much space, don't talk too much, don't make waves, like, right? Like, don't enter into conflict. And somewhere along the way, what happens is love becomes really, really transactional. Like, if I do this, then I'll be loved. If I show up in this way, then I'll be chosen. When love is earned, we then start to write the story that it can also be lost. And that is where the pain lies. Welcome back to the Daily Surrender. This week, we've got a bit of a Valentine's Day theme going on as we culturally are celebrating Valentine's Day in a few days this weekend. Whether you celebrate it or not, it's kind of fun to just celebrate love. And as I was reflecting on Valentine's Day and love and what that really means to me, I really started to think about how love in our culture is so confused. In our culture, we often look at love as being something that's external and it's externally given to us, or we go seek it and we externally find it. I have two young adult daughters, and neither of them are in relationships right now. So they talk a lot about finding love and when they find their partner and what will that feel like. And all of that is so fun. We love to be in loving relationships, but a lot of times what we're really focusing on when we are thinking about getting love is we're we're focusing on that ache inside of us, that ache inside of us to know that we're loved, to feel seen and valued, and that we matter and that we can take up space. That's actually the desire of every one of our hearts. Every single person who walks this planet, who's ever walked this planet, desires the same thing. We're made for love because we're actually made from love. So while we've got this holiday upon us where Valentine's Day has become a kind of emotional, almost audit for many of us, where we're reflecting and thinking, well, am I loved enough? Am I chosen enough? Am I desired enough? I mean, think back to your younger years when getting Valentines was such a huge thing. And you would count how many Valentines you would get, and then you would equate that to how loved you were or how liked you were or how special you were. We think about whether or not we're in a relationship and whether that relationship is a good relationship. And underneath all of it, there can be this kind of quiet hum. And it's the feeling that love is something that we need to get or earn or that can be given to us. But what if the reason that love feels so elusive is because we've been looking for it in the wrong order? And that's the conversation that we're going to have today. That's our Valentine's Day conversation on the Daily Surrender. If you've been listening to the Daily Surrender for any amount of time, you know me and you know that I like to get into the nitty gritty. I'm really looking for embodiment and for ways that we can live all of this out. And I'm also seeking truth. So we as women, in my experience, both personally as well as I will say professionally, I have seen a lot of us really come from this early programming of needing to be good in order to be loved. For me, I definitely walked around with like a good girl persona. And I'll say it was a persona, but it was a wound that was just reinforced in my life, whether it was by teachers or family members. But when I was good, when I was performative and I was praised for it, I took that to mean that I was worthy. And I would seek ways that I could get that praise, that hit of praise, which really was love. And I would seek it in ways that were tied to behavior or performance, or again, like complying, like being that good girl, my achievements. And a lot of us were wired that way pretty early on. And I took on the girl identity, and you can get it inside, for me, I definitely took it on in like the religious space. Like I really wanted to get it right as a Christian. I was like, I need to be a really, really good Christian. Where's the checklist? Give me the checklist and I will check all of those boxes, because it made me feel as if I were better in the eyes of God. But when I'm really being honest with myself, and I have been very honest with myself in recent years, and I reflect back, I wasn't actually even thinking about God as much as I was thinking about other people. I feared God. I feared God's judgment. I would often enter into different spaces, especially religious spaces, as if I were entering into a courtroom and the people before me were the jury and God was the judge. So I needed to make sure that I got it right so that I would be validated. And that validation for me was a substitute for love. And throughout my life, I had a really high bar that I would continue to move higher and higher and higher. And I know I'm not alone in this. I work with a lot of women in my coaching, in the freedom journeys that I guide. Oh my goodness, do I see this played out in women in so many different ways. And it's really painful. It's really, really painful because what we're doing is we're living disconnected from source, which from God, who is the source of love, who is love itself, like in the pure frequency, the highest frequency that there is, which is love. So many of us were taught, whether it was implicitly or explicitly, that love comes after we do something right, after we're really good, or we're really helpful, or we get really good grades, or we're really agreeable. Or perhaps it's even the reinforcement like, don't be too much, don't take up too much space, don't talk too much, don't make waves, like, right? Like, don't enter into conflict. And somewhere along the way, what happens is love becomes really, really transactional. Like, if I do this, then I'll be loved. If I show up in this way, then I'll be chosen. And when love is earned, we then start to write the story that it can also be lost. And that is where the pain lies. I know that when I really started to become aware of how transactional I was in my love and in the ways that I sought love, the amount of pain that I allowed myself to experience in that. And then there was grief that came over me for all the years that I sought for love in all the wrong places, essentially, and how transactional I was in my own behavior and my own actions, because my actions, they carried the frequency of need. And that is not the frequency of love. And we're going to be breaking that down more in our conversation here today. But a love tank that's always being filled externally is always going to run dry. You can't sustain love through performance. I tried it. I've worked with hundreds of women who've tried it that way. And I can tell you the symptoms that show up for you when you're trying to fill your love tank externally. Chronic fatigue, gut issues, sleep issues, hormone issues, adrenal fatigue, inflammation in the body, you name it. But we're running on depletion when we're doing that. And because we're made for love, we've got that God-shaped hole inside of us, metaphorically speaking, because we're made for love. We are going to keep seeking and seeking and seeking it. It's just where we're seeking it that really can create that deficit if it's not in the proper hierarchy, which, again, I want to touch upon that here today. But so, so then we've got the exhaustion. So it lands us in this place of exhaustion because we've got an empty tank that we're trying to love from, and we get hits of it. We'll get hits of it externally, and we might fill it up a little bit, but then we're trying to love others from there. But we're really actually trying to love others from there, not only because we want to show love to them, but we also have the energy of need attached to it, right? So we're loving others from that place. And whether the others are our partners, our children, clients, coworkers, friends, anybody, when we're doing it from that empty or leaky tank, we're burning out. And oftentimes what's happening is what we're calling love is actually fear in disguise. So if I love you well enough, then you're not going to leave me. If I give enough to you, then I'll matter to you, right? If I meet your needs, then you're going to meet my needs, right? So there's that energy of need that's attached to what we're calling love. And I'm going to call it out for what it is. It's not love, it's survival. It's survival. And if you're hearing this and there's some part of you that's feeling like a little squirmy because you're convicted, you're like, oof, I do that sometimes. It's okay. We've all done it, right? It is such a common behavior because of the programming of this world. And we start to pick it up really early. So, how do we rearrange our hierarchy, so to speak, so that we're coming from the infinite, endless well of love, coming from unconditional love? And from that place, we can love ourselves and we can love other people. And we're doing it not in a transactional way. So let's take a look first, as we're looking at rearranging hierarchy, at the old hierarchy. The very common hierarchy that many of us come from, that I was for sure. It's often number one at the top. We'll put others. We'll put other people at the very top. We will put our performance, our validation, like that's up there on that list. That's attached to why we're trying to love other people. Then we'll put ourselves. We're on there because we're trying to love other people and care for other people and receive something from that, right? So we're on that hierarchy. And then at the very bottom, oftentimes somewhere very abstract or distant, we've got God, source, divine. I know for me, I always thought I was loving God. I really did. And again, I had the good girl thing going. So I definitely had like the good Christian girl thing going. And I picked up, as I mentioned earlier, on all the ways that I could be performative in my Christianity. As if that was going to earn me a better place in heaven. Not really sure. But again, early on, I came to see that if love was something I could earn, the deep down belief was that I also could lose it. So I was always in fear of losing God's love, losing God's favor. I used to buy into the whole idea that I had to invite Jesus Christ into my heart as my Lord and Savior, and then I'd go to heaven. But if Jesus could come into my heart, he could leave my heart. So I would say the sinner's prayer like multiple times. I would answer the altar calls multiple times. And I really had like this almost fear-based relationship with God. And it was from programming. I didn't understand. I didn't understand this conversation that I'm having here with you today. So when I started to become aware of how my old hierarchy was not working and it was harming me, it actually enabled me to really get to know God in a brand new way, in a completely new light, because the new hierarchy becomes moving God from the bottom to the very top. So, new hierarchy is God, source, love itself at the very, very, very top. And from there, we love ourselves because we're receiving what is our inherent birthright. It's receiving what is always there for us. Every one of us has been created in the image of God. God, who is spirit, who cannot divide himself, can personalize himself and individualize himself in each and every one of us and our souls. And we're created on purpose for a purpose. And that purpose is to expand God out. And we only expand God out when we receive the love that's unconditional, that's never ending, that's always there for us. We receive that love. And we don't buy into all of the lies of the world that we're unworthy, that we're not valuable, that we're not lovable, that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy of taking up space, blah, 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 blah. We don't do that. We're like, nope, I will not give power to any of those things. Instead, I'm going to come from the truth that I am loved and that love cannot be taken away from me. I could do all the things, quote unquote, wrong, but love will not be taken away from me. Sin is simply missing the mark. What's the mark? The mark is giving power to one, God source love. And when we give all power to one, we're believing that that one is here for us, that we're abiding in that we can come from that. So when we turn away and we start being, oh, wait, I actually have to perform and I need to become a workaholic. Like maybe like I got to really, really become the very, very best. And perfectionism becomes the whip on my back so that I can receive accolades and validation from my work. What are we doing? Well, we're sinning. Right? But we don't lose God's love. Like that's something that I also used to misunderstand. Like, oh my gosh, all my sins can be stacked against me. And in that, I'm going to lose God's favor and God's love. Nope, we do not lose it, but we are losing out on it. Does that make sense? We're not losing God's love because God is God and God doesn't move and God doesn't stop being God and love isn't stopping because we're choosing in our consciousness and our awareness to give power to something else. No, we turn back away from the sin, which is whatever else we're putting in a place of power. And we drop right back into fully receiving what is ours, what is there for us. So we've got that, and we're loving ourselves from that place. We're loving ourselves enough to take a look at the gunk and junk that thickens our veil. We're loving ourselves enough to say, okay, why am I giving power to something outside of one when I know what truth is? Let me be humble and honest about that. This is definitely a stronghold of mine. I am wrestling hard because it feels really, really good when I people please and I make someone else happy and then they give me accolades and I get a dopamine hit for a moment. And I got to own that because that's actually exhausting and it's not really giving me what I need. And I'm not coming from the place that I need to come from. So that's where we get into, if we want to use more religious terms, but I mean, that's repentance. That's saying I'm going to turn away from that. And in the repentance, I am redeemed, like instantly redeemed, because again, God And God's love never moves. It never, ever, ever changes. We cannot lose it. So can we love ourselves from that? Can we love ourselves from the never ending? And then here's the hierarchy. And then we love others. So when we're loving others from that place, what we're doing is we're receiving love before we give it. And then that love just flows through us. We're a vessel, and we're a vessel for the divine love, right? That's never ending. That is here for all of us. There's no scarcity in divine love, none. It's like, we can't be loved enough. We can't. So when we put God at the top, this isn't a religious thing. It's a relational stance. God as love itself, instead of a distant evaluator up there in the sky judging us to see if we're getting it right or wrong. So when I rearranged the hierarchy, everything in my life changed. Everything started to change because I wasn't trying to love from a place of depletion or scarcity or need. I practice every day because I need to remember this truth because I'm a human and sometimes I forget. But I practice receiving what is already here for me, dropping into love, feeling that. And then I come from there. And then when I lose sight of that, I'll feel it. It usually shows up as fear, anxiety, scarcity, worry, discontent, right? Okay. Divine tap on the shoulder. Let's drop back in. So when God, love itself, moved to the top, I stopped striving to be filled by people who were never meant to be my source. They were never meant to be my source, ever. And when love became the source, what did it do? It softened me. Talk about nervous system regulation. I didn't have to chase it. I didn't have to earn it. I didn't have to prove myself worthy. I didn't have to prove myself worthy. Huge. My whole body, my physiology shifted when I started to really embody this. We love because He first loved us. Whew. Can you see the sequence there? That's not obligation. That's not obligation. It's not a command. It's a revelation. Love flows out in order. So beautiful. So beautiful. So receiving love, my friends, is not a passive thing. It is courageous. It takes courage to receive unconditional love. We have to trust that it's actually unconditional. We were created from love and as an expression of love. And that can be a hard one. That is a bit of a journey for people to believe based on their own conditioning and their own programming. And that's what we call transgenerational chains that may get passed down from generation to generation. The little t and big T traumas that happen to us in our lifetime. The little t traumas can be really, really insidious. So when we receive love from Source, what we're really doing is we're remembering who we are. And isn't this whole journey all about remembering? It's remembering to become. But in order to remember to become, you first have to unbecome all the things that people told you that you should be, right? Or that you told yourself that you should be. It's in this that we really enter into union. And entering into union is entering into the kingdom where God is within. The kingdom is within. So our struggle as humans is really in the remembering, and we forget because there's just so much that gets in the way of us really, really, really seeing this truth. So when love flows through you, it's not depleting you. you will feel that. You really do feel it. Like when love flows through me and I am a vessel and I'm not looking to receive anything because I'm receiving what is here for me and I'm serving and I'm loving on another person because I'm allowing divine love to flow through me, it actually lights me up. It lifts me up. It strengthens me. You stop loving to be loved and you start loving because you are loved. And when you're coming from that place, oh, there's nothing better. It's what we were made to do, right? We are made to be vessels of God's love, but before we can be a healthy vessel, we have to be receiving that love ourselves because we're not the source itself. Like it's not coming from our human flesh, but we are, in a sense, the source and force of God's love. And it feels like relief. I can't even tell you because when I try and love from my scarcity, from my need for validation, it feels exhausting. It feels bumpy. It feels transactional. I'll get resentful. I'll have expectations. Actually, it's something my husband and I will often converse with one another because sometimes I'll put expectations on him and he'll say, Jen, are you having an expectation here? I mean, and I'm not saying like an expectation, like I expected you to cook dinner tonight and you didn't, and I had verbalized that earlier, but am I expecting something from him that I'm not supposed to be going to him for? Have I done a check-in? Like, have I gone to source to receive that? And then I can come and approach my husband in a very, very different energy, in a different place. Perhaps this Valentine's Day, maybe for you, the invitation isn't to be chosen, but instead to remember that you already are, not because of what you do, not because of how you show up, but because love chose you first. What would it feel like to receive love today instead of earn it? Put your hand over your heart and just feel into it. Feel into the love that's there and receive it. Perhaps that's receiving it up through the crown of your head or the base of your spine, but just breathe in and receive it. I have a freebie and it's called Calm and Receive. If you have not downloaded that yet, I highly recommend you do. It's a short little teaching on receiving love that helps to shift the nervous system. And I've got a prayer in there, a somatic prayer. And there's a journaling PDF that goes with it. But we do need to actually practice this if it's not something that we're used to, if we're used to seeking externally. So maybe you're just sitting with yourself and you reflect and you're feeling in to where your love is transactional or where you're seeking it externally, and just simply sit with it. And again, try and see if you can flip it so that you're coming from an internal space. So we will end there, my friends. As always, I invite you to share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Please leave comments, subscribe, or follow on whatever channel you're listening to. That helps me to get this message out to you and other people. Continue your walk in the daily surrender. If you are desiring a group of women to walk by your side, sisterhood, women cheering you on this journey, I am opening up the Daily Surrender Circle. It is a community of women where we're going to be reinforcing and expanding upon what we talk about on this podcast. So it is for podcast listeners. You can get on the waiting list for that. That should be opening shortly. And until next time, my friends, continue surrendering and receiving that unconditional love that's here for you. Thank you for joining me on the Daily Surrender. If today's episode spoke to you, I'd love to hear your reflections. Send me a message, share this with a friend, or leave a review. Remember, true healing and freedom come when we let go, surrender, and trust that God's way
is so much better than our way. Until next time, my friends, keep surrendering, keep rising, and keep walking in peace.